here today, and it's a jam-packed day. 4 panels bringing together academic experts, industry experts, entrepreneurs, and members of the Lehman community to add that balance and to really try to make it an actionable environment. So I'm really amped to have it underway today. And with that said, I'm going to kick off our first panel talking about sort of the current state of blockchain and crypto assets. Antonio, all right, do you want to join me up here? I'll be joining you?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Please.
Hold on.
Can you hear me? Yeah, hear myself too.
Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah. Paul. Will we hear Paul when he speaks?
Yes. Paul, can you hear us? All right, so in the interest of having this panel get underway, Antonio, do you want to get us kicked off here?
Absolutely. All right. Can you? Okay. Thank you. All right. So as Sean mentioned, this is a panel about the current state of blockchain and crypto happening right now. So while they're working and getting everyone else, I'll start with an intro about myself first. So I'm Antonio Brass. I am the CEO and co-founder of a startup company called Blockquake. So blockchain earthquake, we combine the 2 words, named the company Blockquake. We are a fintech company looking to launch our own global cryptocurrency exchange. All right, so I'll continue. So we started this fintech company where we're looking to launch our own global cryptocurrency exchange. I'm sure everyone's been following the news. So our particular twist is, customer safety, protection, regulations, compliance. That's our particular twist, and part of that has to do with my personal background. I'm actually a CPA and also done my CIA, CFSA, CISA, and CAMS designations. So all very internal audit, compliance related designations for finance and technology. And I actually graduated from Brooklyn CUNY with a BS in accounting and a BS in computer science, computer programming. And I spent 15 years or more working as an internal auditor within the financial services space, touching finance, operational audits, technology audits, and doing that globally, not just domestically. So there was often a lot of touch on various regulatory structures within financial services. And either just looking at finance and ops related to those regulations, or looking at technology stacks and making sure that they were actually programmed and working to help in complying with those regulations. And as just part of that journey, I would say around 2016, I stumbled into cryptocurrencies. A lot of my technology audit colleagues in the banks and insurance companies I worked with, they were talking about it. I started looking at it and went down the rabbit hole of looking at things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Oracle's XRP, and other ones. And as I went down that road, and I started playing around with cryptocurrencies along with a lot of my other founding team members, we ran into a lot of problems maybe a lot of people are running into that are watching this right now, where you went and you traded cryptocurrencies and the exchange you used got hacked for security, or you didn't know who owned it. It was some offshore exchange where they disappeared overnight with your money, never to be found again, just like experiencing all these problems. And that's when we said to ourselves, like, hey, we can actually build a better crypto exchange that addresses all of these concerns. So we embarked on this journey a couple of years ago to start our own exchange, and we're hoping by early next year we're able to have this launch and really addressing a lot of the stuff we've seen in news right now. So that's before I dive more into that, which will be some of the topics, I'll stop there, and I guess if we can hear from anyone else, let them introduce themselves. Sean, is Paul, Sandra, anyone else?
Paul's currently launching back out and back in.
Sean, if you want meeting up there, I'm really right on your screen.
Oh, there?
Whoever talks has to be on you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's it. So how do you talk?
Paul's logging back in 5 minutes. So, while we're dealing with a few of those technical issues. There we go. So while we're dealing with a few of those more technical issues over there, while some of our virtual panelists try to join in on us. Obviously the main headline right now going on around tokenized assets, blockchain, crypto assets, has to be the FTX trial, right?
Absolutely.
For good or for bad. And so in terms of the impact that sort of the collapse of FTX has had on crypto entrepreneurial activity, VC activity, and the overall interest in other innovators entering the area, how has that been playing out over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring this up because I've been having these conversations with family offices, venture funds, where they're not running away. So when I'm talking to people with big money, they still want to be in crypto, but they're much more discerning now, right?
Okay.
So FTX went down. There's the Sam Bankman trial happening right now. Just a ton of stuff we're learning about how bad things were over there. And the conversations I'm having with these institutional investors is that they're now looking for more protections. They want to see exchanges step up and not wait for regulators to pass laws. So, it's one of the things we're focused on where, we talked about this at the conference a couple of weeks ago where proof of reserves is not really providing the level of confidence that folks are looking for. And I'll let you probably describe that better than I can in a little bit, but what they're looking for is actually proving the customer funds are there. That's which proof of reserve doesn't truly do. So if they're going to trust a crypto exchange to actually custody their crypto assets, because FTX and others misused funds, they either outright stole it or they were trying to take customer funds to make money off of it, and then they lost big, now having a hole there. Customers want to know, like, hey, you're not taking my funds. Like, if I trade and it says I have like 100 ETH or whatever it might say, they want to know that's there. So one of the things that we've been talking with accounting firms is, upon our launch anyway, once customers were trading on it, we would have an attestation done independently on either a monthly, quarterly basis where they come in and they actually say one-to-one that, okay, customer balances total 100 Bitcoin, there should be 100 Bitcoin in Blockwave's wallet infrastructure, and do that per asset, and then do that periodically. That doesn't exist in the space right now. So when I talk to VCs and funds, they're looking for that. They're looking for exchanges to actually do that. And then there's a legal side of it where they want it within almost like a qualified custodian structure, where if there is a bankruptcy or a creditor issue with an exchange, that the customer funds are considered customer funds legally, so that in bankruptcy proceedings, other creditors can't take hold of that. So that is something that's also being discussed greatly. So those are things we're trying to tackle.
So to kind of summarize that, Antonio, right? There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot going on, and probably one of the biggest issues. And then I'm gonna loop in Paul also right now.
that is happening in this space is that there's a lot of different terminology being used, right? And audits, attestation, custody, third-party, custodial agreements, and I do think that a big part of, sort of the issues that, albeit have not tempered too much of the institutional interest, right? Given all of the investments and applications that have been put forward by the likes of BlackRock and all the rest. There are issues out there that are going to have to be not so much fixed, but sort of worked through, right? Through comprehensive dialogue between the entrepreneurial community, investors, and the regulators. And sort of bringing up the sort of legal aspect here, it's probably an excellent opportunity to have Paul join us if Paul's able to hear us now. Paul, yes. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul, can you hear us?
I guess not.
Hello, Paul.
Okay, so in the interim,
Yeah,
right?
let me expound on what you were saying about us having to work through this, for better or for worse. It has to happen. I had a conversation the other day. This was between when we did our little group call last week and now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I guess like the phrase is creative destruction. We unfortunately are going to still have to go through a lot of that in this space. When I was talking about performing this attestation, I had a couple of meetings around getting a software product that can actually API connect to our exchange and then the wallets and then do that comparison. And through those conversations happening, I did learn, like a lot of the folks I was speaking to, they've seen under the hood of all the top name exchanges, and their position was like, it is very much a mess. They don't actually know their accounting, not even just they lost customers' crypto and lost keys to the wallets where they no longer have access to crypto. They don't know what their assets are, they don't know what their liabilities are, they never kept any books and records. And so they can't even get audited because they can't put financials together. So it's pretty bad, and this is for a lot of the top name exchanges, which I will not name.
Come on.
Yeah, but it's pretty bad, and I think that we're gonna have to.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Paul, can you hear us? We can hear you, Paul.
We need you, Paul.
Right, I can't hear you guys, but can you hear me?
Can we write in the chat to him to introduce himself? Oh, sorry. Yeah,
All right,
so,
yeah, I can only read you in the chat, but I can't hear what you're saying, but if you want to type something in the chat, I don't know if you want me to chime in on something or respond to something, I can do it.
Yeah, please, yeah. He can introduce himself and, all that good stuff.
yes, while they're writing that, I was gonna say that, we are unfortunately gonna see many more defaults in the space, and it needs to happen, right? Like, we all went through .com and a lot of.
All right, right now, my name is Ryan. I am an assistant professor in the accounting department of the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, the largest college of business in the state. My background is a CPA and lawyer. Spent most of my time Institute at Whitewater, where we have research projects going on and students working for us and taking trips down to things like Bitcoin Miami. And so happy to talk about kind of all things crypto in the space and probably particularly Bitcoin too.
Awesome, Paul. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's a lot of feedback.
Okay, great. So then probably what I would ask you to start with is to probably sort of give us your current opinion on the state of sort of where crypto is, be it Bitcoin or other crypto assets, both from a financial point of view and a legal point of view.
Yeah, so very interesting right now. So we could sort of do one of these like every week, and the update might change every week depending on the time of the year and what's going on. I would start off by saying there's a lot of noise and there are signals in the noise. So a lot of the noise I would suggest a lot has to do with the FTX bankruptcy, Celsius bankruptcy, Voyager bankruptcy, and so there's a lot of noise going on, a lot of kind of interesting media coverage in that respect. I think the signal probably at this point is we're likely seeing a shift in how traditional finance views crypto, and they're going to start with Bitcoin, and so that's going to manifest itself probably in an ETF that we don't know when that ETF is going to get launched, presumably sometime between November 8th and sometime in Q1. And I think for most people, we're just not, the ability for traditional finance to plug into a crypto asset like Bitcoin, especially a crypto asset that has a big supply and is truly decentralized, we just don't know what those ramifications look like. We look at other historical analog like gold, things like that, but to be fair, I don't think those trade exist, so I see us in this sort of very noisy space right now. There is a couple of things going on. ETF is moving, and that's going to have a lot of consequences for things like miners and other parties too. That's how I certainly view the space.
Thank you, Paul. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now, Paul?
All right, so they're building on Paul's comments, right? And probably his one comment that I want to sort of, piggyback on is that while there is quite a bit of noise right now in the space, there is a lot of other indications out there, right? That even as there is this noise, there are the ongoing bankruptcies. Obviously, Celsius collapsed, Terra Luna, BlockFi just exited bankruptcy yesterday. That there is this growing institutional push, right? And I do know that you and your team over at Blockquake have been trying to build a more institutionally focused model to work with regulators, which I can imagine is awfully tough sometimes. But sort of on that, in terms of how the noise does exist, but it isn't really chasing away institutional players. Why do you think that is?
I mean, they're there to make money at the end of the day at a large
really?
scale.
Okay.
And they see the opportunity. I think that for a lot of them, they've been through many markets, right? They've been through the ups and downs at the beginning of the .com. They've been involved, in real estate, Forex, you name it. I think they see a lot of opportunity and growth in the space, so they see money to be made still, and they see that we're still at the infancy phase. I think a lot of crypto enthusiasts that are in the weeds, they don't get that we're really still very much at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think the big institutions that are still looking at the space, they see a longer roadmap ahead. It's not, yes, they're there to make money, but they see that they can make that sustainably as people build out utility cases around some of these blockchains and cryptocurrencies where there's actually real world use and not just speculation.
Mhm.
So I think that drives on the thought process that they can make money on that upswing and then also build financial products around it. Because you have the whole DeFi space that's out there that's very much in the early stages as well.
Yeah.
And I think they see a lot of opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And so, on a sort of tax angle of things, right? Because we have all these players out there. We have pretty much every major bank in the world, including those here in the U.S., either rolling out their own tokenized payment applications, like at JPM and Citi during the last month or so. But there are also banks that are trying to develop their own trading products and services for their clients. And so ultimately, right, they're all in this business to make money. And so on that side, the whole tax conversation that has been taking place around crypto has been, on the one hand, it hasn't really changed that much, right? That basically every time that there's a movement of a tokenized asset, there's a income tax liability. But on the other hand, right, there is this idea that as you have these bigger players leveraging crypto for payments and also products, that there might be some forward progress sort of going forward on that. And also there's the first FASB update around crypto ever due out by the end of 2023. So as a entrepreneur whose business is to make trading crypto easier for institutions and other investors, how is that playing out, one? And two, are you optimistic, right, that there are going to be forward moving changes as to try to make the tax burden on institutions and entrepreneurs trading crypto easier?
Yeah, I mean, short is I believe there will be forward progress.
Well, good.
So it's, I think it'll take time as regulators sit down and try to figure out the industry. From the tax perspective, I do believe that they're ultimately going to look at the behavior of a particular crypto and then the actions of the people holding that crypto to determine how it's categorized for tax purposes. Because you've got NFTs where if it really is like just a piece of art and they're holding it, okay, that behavior indicates, falls under like collectible, right?
Yep.
Versus if it's constantly being sold and retraded, et cetera, where the original person, the smart contract says they're going to collect a little bit every time that's done, okay, that's going to be treated like a royalty. So I think they're going to look at, both the actions of smart contracts, the behavior of the crypto, as well as like how are people dealing with, like in our case, as a crypto exchange, we're collecting a trading fee every time a trade is done, and that's our revenue. So it's going to just be categorized as regular revenue, even if we collect it in crypto, and we'll have to pay ordinary taxes on that. So it's not like a buy and hold long-term capital gain situation. So I think a lot of that matters. For a lot of people in the crypto space, for those jumping in, the one thing I'd like to say to them is that it kind of takes me back to a couple of years ago when I first started this. Some of my old audit colleagues, they went on to work with one of the regulators. We ran into each other at the South Spring Seaport one summer, and we were just shooting the breeze. And they just candidly said to me that as far as them and other regulators are concerned, all existing regulations apply, and they just hadn't started enforcing them yet.
So all current regulations apply. Okay, so how would you categorize, how would you classify a crypto asset like Bitcoin? If you're talking to a person who is not in the space every day, who's a non-expert, would you call it an asset, liability, or the equivalent of an equity instrument? How would you categorize that?
If people are familiar with the term commodity, I'd categorize it like a commodity like gold or silver or copper. And that's how the regulators have categorized it so far. And their logic behind that is that it's sort of just out there. Nobody really controls it. or can make more on their own. There's not that central authority or company behind it. You kind of go into the Howey test at this point. So it's out there. It's always going to continue to print until it's 21 million supply, regardless of what anybody does. So it's you know, similar to like gold or silver, where like it just exists, and you know, mine it, we sell it, there's a market for it. You can speculate on it, but still categorized as a commodity.
And so in terms of the Howey test, right, to add some context there for the audience who might not be intimately, you know, aware of that test. Basically, it's the test commissioned and governed by the SEC that helps the SEC, who has been the most proactive regulator by far. It helps the SEC try to understand and to parse through whether or not a instrument or an asset actually falls under its purview. And under Gary Gensler, they have been very proactive in basically saying that every crypto asset, be it NFT, stable coins, governance tokens, Bitcoin, ETH, Ripple, all fall under their oversight and purview. And so, you know, do you think, being a person who's in this space every day, how is that going? Is that going to change?
Yeah, I think that I think it's
And you're on the record here, Antonio.
Yeah.
So on the record.
I think Congress is going to ultimately have to step up and clarify what a security is. The Howey test is, it was for another time. It was very vague.
It was written when again?
What year was it? Like 1940?
1946, just to add some context there.
40s, before people had computers and knew what that was. Yeah, so, you know, we just had the Ripple XRP case, and that's probably not even done yet. There'll probably be appeals involved, but you had the judge rule the way, I actually thought it was going to come down that way, where I sort of described XRP to people like digital oil in a way, where XRP was oil, it just exists, right? But Ripple was OPEC. Because they control the supply, but that didn't make it a security, and the judge sort of ruled that way, where you know, it's this thing, and by itself it cannot be a security, but the actions of Ripple made the investment contracts that they signed securities, and you know, I subscribe to that. You know, the SEC obviously doesn't agree with that, but I guess from my perspective as an entrepreneur in this space, when I heard my colleagues that work with one of the regulators now say that, the way I tell other entrepreneurs in the space is make sure you have someone on your team that has deep understanding of various regulatory frameworks, and as you're building, just try to bake that in as much as possible. It's not going to be 100% because at the end of the day, it's people that are in these regulatory bodies, and they have their own opinions that they'll try to rule make on. But yeah, I definitely tell any startup in the crypto space, have folks on your team that understand regulations, and you can at least try to attempt to bake it in as much as possible. I think from a global scale, like in the US, we're so focused on like is it a security or is it not? But on a global scale, I think people, KYC AML is probably the biggest thing, and I think if people tackle that, they'll be able to handle the taxation situation much better, and then also a lot of the OFAC sanction stuff as well.
Excellent points there, Antonio. And so our audience here today and online and in the future is going to be a mix, right, of industry folks, academics, and current students. So if you had to go back and advise a student, a budding entrepreneur, right, who's interested in getting into this space, building on your previous comments, what types of courses, what types of majors would you advise would actually be the best route to get there outside of becoming a auditor or a CPA, obviously?
I think a combination where there's a program that teaches them the fundamentals and the technicals of what blockchain and crypto is. And then also there needs to be the financial related classes that teach them, the financial market implications of that stuff, as well as, your tax, audit, and other regulatory style classes that explain, the regulatory impacts around this stuff. I think that builds a pretty good holistic picture. So I tell them to look for that, and I tell schools too to try to design programs that touch on each of those areas.
Absolutely.
And I know you guys are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're currently doing that right now, Antonio. And so now, in the last 5 to 8 minutes here for our first panel, I was going to open up the floor for any comments or questions or any jokes, even.
I have a couple of questions. First, for cryptocurrency, I think when cryptocurrency first came about, it was considered more of a currency, right? Something to complement the Federal Reserve notes. I think with a little bit of time, I think that kind of fell out because, for whatever reasons. Antonio talks about crypto as an asset, right, as a commodity. When we compare assets, let's say like gold, like you stated as your example, gold has other uses, right? It rings. You can use it for other things that people would like to buy or purchase, etc. When we look at cryptocurrency, right, for me, the only thing I see it at this point, now it can change to something else down the road, is speculation, right? You can't take a crypto or a Bitcoin and make jewelry with it, right? So, so from your perspective, what real purposes, right? What do you talk about real world applications, right, for crypto? Outside, at this point of view, speculation, what do you see it that doesn't use the currency aspect of it? What real world applications crypto have, not as a medium of exchange, right? Within the currency realm.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. And so some of the things we see in the space are stable coins. I don't know if everyone's familiar with stable coins. That's essentially someone's creating a cryptocurrency on whatever blockchain of choice they have. And that's actually pegged one-to-one with, say, the dollar. The dollar's a part from a bank, and then there's this digital coin that represents $1, one for one. So you see people doing that to speed up payments globally. So that's a real utility case to me, where people that are doing business around the globe, they can actually just send a stablecoin to each other in a matter of seconds. And so that's one of the real-world use cases. And I think most of the use cases we've seen have been around payments, cross-border payments. So to go beyond that, I know there's a lot of folks looking at real estate tokenization. We're having good conversations, consulting some folks around tokenizing buildings or apartments out in Dubai, where maybe it's a multi-million-dollar apartment. It's too expensive to find one buyer. It might take them too long. So an approach that they could do is actually tokenize the ownership of the shares in that apartment, and then actually sell that out fractionally to anyone around the globe. And they can actually get the sale done faster. So from that perspective, real estate tokenization and using blockchain could really help speed up sales of maybe higher end real estate, and also help buffer any potential crash, because it's so fractionalized ownership globally. It spreads out that risk to a lot more people and lowers the risk of potential real estate crash on that particular project as the overall economy declines.
Great, thank you. One more question. Blockchain, right? Is blockchain and crypto, are they kind of married in the sense that they both need to be applied, or can crypto be independent of blockchain?
So blockchain can be independent of crypto, but for crypto to exist, it has to exist on a blockchain. So Sean had brought up Citibank and Chase, and they have their own private blockchains. They don't have a cryptocurrency floating around outside for people to trade themselves. So there's you can use blockchain and not have a crypto. If you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, and probably the two most obvious use cases for blockchain to not have any tokens out there trading are going to be blockchain for healthcare records, educational records, real estate records, basically any type of company that has information that has to be accessed by a large number of external counterparties, be it insurance or any other type of information like that. Those companies, including food safety, vaccine records and items like that, don't have any tokens with them, and that's honestly where I think quite a bit of the institutional dollars are going to be going over the next 2 to 5 years, as all of the questions around currency versus commodity and all the rest sort of get ironed out.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I have two questions I would like to ask. The first question is, why did you decide to form Blockquake? And the second question is, what is appropriate risk management for digital assets?
Those are great. The second one's really a great
The second one's
question.
really good.
Yeah. So the first one, it probably a similar story to a lot of people that get into entrepreneurial life, where I started playing around with cryptocurrencies, and I come from a risk audit background. And myself, the literal story is New Year's Eve weekend 2017. I'm with some of my buddies, we're having whiskey, we're trading crypto, and one of my friends, he is not from a risk background. He's about to buy some random coin I've never heard of before on an exchange I've never heard of before, and I'm looking at him and I'm telling him, like, don't do that. He buys it skyrockets 10,000% literally, or it looks that way. He's trying to sell it. He can't sell, he can't get out of it. The platform crashes right before our eyes, and it never came back up again. So I just remember in that moment just saying to him without thinking, like, oh, this is BS, we should just start our own exchange. I wasn't thinking, it just came out of my mouth, the words. And then he just looked at me, and it was just like we looked at each other, and like it clicked that, hey, we're seeing all these problems with exchanges that unfortunately still exist today. We just saw a crypto custodian just get hacked for like $20 million. This stuff is still happening today, and that's how we got into the space. I'm like, wait, nobody knows who owns these exchanges. The security protocols are garbage, and we saw that there was this gap that we had the knowledge to fill. So that's how we ended up going down this road, like just caring about customer protection and understanding, like from a business perspective, there's money to be made focusing on compliance, customer protection, and just playing the long game. I think a lot of the companies in the space, they're just trying to make money now, and they're not really thinking about that stuff. So that's how I got into the space. And then from a kind of like a risk profile, the way I look at this is, we're seeing these defaults, Celsius, FTX, other ones, and a lot of that, putting the fraud aside that happens with some of these companies, a lot of it is because they have no risk management in place. These were customer deposits they had on with them, and I guess they thought it was just forever going to be there. People weren't going to try to withdraw, and they were trying to take pretty much all of it and make more money off of it. And then that didn't happen at some point, like it blew up, it's a volatile market, and so they had no risk in place. So from our perspective, considering that volatility, for a crypto exchange, we're not going to play around with customer funds. You're there to just trade in and out, that's it, and that's all we're going to let you do in a spot market. We do want to eventually have services that are like lending, earn yield, other things, but then those will be separate legal entities. Customers have to actually expressly elect into that and move their crypto to that. So like they really understand, like, oh, I'm elected to take on this risk, so they're not blindsided like what's happening right now. Hope that answers.
Thank you.
All right, and I believe we're at time for this first panel. Antonio, as always, it was a pleasure having you here, talking to you, picking your brain. Thank you again, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, perfect. And so now we're ready for panel number 2, talking about blockchain and crypto job opportunities, examples, and some use cases. And I believe our panelists are here, at the very least some of them. Kelly's here, Mel's here. Is Daniel here? Okay. Then we'll get started. All right. Kelly and Mel.
Some t-shirt toss out. So we want to get the crowd started here, get everybody excited.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's just going to be us 3.
Okay.
So if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the swag.
Okay.
Say B one, right?
Right. I think the dean just took yours. Right here?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Okay, and so in our panel number 2, our main focus is going to be more on sort of the opportunities, right, in blockchain and crypto, both on a jobs point of view, and then how it is changing how people work in accounting and finance at large, right? Because obviously that's the whole point of having conferences like this, is to one, have some experts come in and to offer their expertise, and to also highlight, right, for our audience, both in person right here today and online streaming, both now and in the future, how these opportunities are actually changing. And so to, introduce our panel, I'm going to actually ask our 2 panelists who are here to give a brief background on themselves and sort of why they're here, interested in blockchain and crypto, and yeah.
Okay.
All right, Mel?
Okay, sure. Thanks.
There we go.
Thanks, Sean. It is really exciting to be here, to be on campus, and to be next to the celebrity, Dr. Sean Stein-Smith, in the space. He is a force to be reckoned with in the crypto space in the accounting world. So it's exciting to be here. Anyway, Mel Comer. My background is I'm a CPA and a CFO. I got out of school, went to work in an accounting firm, EY at the time. It was, well, I won't date myself. It's now EY. It was something else way back then. And then left for more entrepreneurial companies and spent a long time in industry. I left the industry as a CFO at a professional service marketing company and really looked around to figure out, like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life and my career here? What's fun? Well, okay, so I've got the background. I could be an outsourced CFO, but for what kind of company? And in 2018, I was at a QuickBooks conference. There was one panel on blockchain, and it blew my mind. It made me realize, like, that's what I want to do. Why? It's the future. It's going to be hard, but interesting. And what they say is when you're starting your own firm or any kind of business, the riches are in the niches. So it's like, okay, if I want to find an interesting niche, boy, blockchain, cryptocurrency could be one of them. So I decided that's what I wanted to focus on. Did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people. I was at a co-working space, and I got a tour, and they said, oh, our blockchain company is over here. So it was on a weekend, so I decided I wanted to go back because I wanted to meet real live people working in blockchain, thinking that would help accelerate my growth. So I go to the co-working space I'm working, and I asked the receptionist, hey, could you introduce me to the blockchain people? And she said, well, I'm sorry, you're just a day member. I can't really give you the directory. And I was like, oh. And she said, but the CEO's coming in the door. So here's this 23-year-old guy who founded this company. I walk over to him and I think, he's gonna think I'm nuts, but I introduced myself, hi, I'm Mel Comer, I'm a CPA, and listen, I wanna learn about blockchain. I would be your unpaid intern to help you with your accounting because I wanna learn blockchain. So, smart guy that he was said, sure. So that's how I got my start in crypto accounting and blockchain accounting, is that sense of like, I've got to learn it someplace, and why not do it in a situation where you can be hands-on with people. So, and now here I am, I have a firm, we do outsourced accounting services and CFO advisory services for companies in the Web3 space, which is pretty comprehensive, but really the common denominator there touches cryptocurrency. And it's fun. It is really fun. And I urge everyone here who's in accounting or thinking about accounting, come join us because there's a lot of opportunity in this space. So.
Thank you, Mel, for that great introduction. And really, you know, I mean, that is how most people, be it Antonio, you, or myself, or most people who are into crypto in any capacity, sort of, you know, found it by accident back in that blurry time, 2015 to 2017, and then honestly have been down the rabbit hole since.
Yes.
So it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the panel, and I have some tough follow-up questions for you.
Okay.
So just FYI. Okay, Kelly?
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly Blacrema. I'm also a current student at Lehman College. I am a double major for business administration and accounting with a concentration in international business. Thank you so much for having me here, and it was great meeting you, Mel. I am also a current Alpha treasurer for Alpha, which is the Organization for Association for Latino Professionals. So we work with students all the time to kind of build professional development, resumes, working on those networking, working on those opportunities to like really push these students into those spaces, especially for us who have sometimes a difficulty reaching or speaking to people in that space. So we have a lot of office visits, we have companies coming over. We try to be the mediators and really help these students. We know how hard it is and how hard it is to get in corporate America, first of all. As Latinos or just as a minority in general, we're not really a target school, so we push ourselves to be that. And we really try to make those connections. We're alumni back again because our alumni are also very important to us. And through this organization, we're able to learn so much from companies like EY. Actually, we have EY coming in tomorrow. We learn from Bloomberg, we learn from Deloitte, and all these companies have such important information, especially crypto. With this, you guys are the pioneers. You know, you guys are the ones that kind of like made the first steps, and here we are learning from what you guys are doing, and we're growing and we're developing. And this is where I was able to actually first learn about, you know, blockchain and crypto, which was very interesting. That we're these, you know, learning all of those informations from. First of all, Bloomberg News has so much information on that sometimes. So a little there. And, you know, having that future, like you said, it is a future. It's something that is developing. It's something that people are creating, something that people are building. So I'm here to help students kind of get into their space. What do they want to do? Do they want to do accounting? And like say, accounting can move into crypto. So I do that little bit of that, and also just do a little, you know, just learning on my own side for, you know, the future and getting a little bit more innovative. Because I think people should always be learning. We are always going to be students in life. We're always going to be learning. So I think that's where I stand here. So thank you so much.
Awesome, Kelly. Thank you for that introduction. And so to sort of pop the hood on this, right? Because our panel is really on the opportunities, right? And opportunities can mean quite a few things, right? Depending on the audience and the context. Direct jobs, other educational opportunities, or just opportunities to be more informed on sort of the broader business ecosystem. So probably one question that I want to ask both of you, right? Mel, what is Web 3? And how does that compare to Web 2 or to Web 1? And where are we right now in that range of the web universe? And then Kelly, how does, you know, Web 3 and I'll defer to you for the social media stuff, but how does all of that both make it easier and harder for students and folks early in their career to network and to find out which information is actually accurate?
Okay.
So Mel.
Sure, okay. So the journey from Web 1 to Web 3. So we have to go back to the Dark Ages, probably around the time of Game of Thrones was set. You had Web 1, which was really just informational pages on the internet, where it wasn't interactive. It was really just static pages that were presented to you that had hopefully the information that you were looking for. Very, at the time revolutionary, but like back in 1995, it was like, wow, that's the most amazing thing. And now when you look and you think of like just a static web page, you just roll your eyes and think, oh my God, what do you do with that? That evolved to Web 2, which was really, and Web 1 was really just read only. And Web 2 evolved where it was read-write, if you think about those two actions, because you could read, but you could also contribute to the internet. You could post information, you could share content, you could record video, you could share whatever you wanted to. It was much more interactive, so hence the read-write. Now Web 3 is really that next step where you build off of the read, you build off of the write, and now there's the execution phase of it where with the ability of, say, smart contracts to execute code in a way that you don't have to touch, that's really kind of the self-executing part of it. So you go from just a static page all the way now where you push a button, it does everything for you. For example, in a blockchain transaction, you push the code does everything it's meant to do, receive your asset, pay your supplier, you're done only by agreeing to launch that smart contract. So that to me is the evolution. And where we are right now, Sean, I think is where we are. I think Web 2's done. I mean, just because that's the space that I live in, I am really more Web 3 oriented in terms of what is the execution part, what is the automation part of blockchain, crypto, and things like that.
Awesome, well, thank you for that. And so probably to try to summarize that, would a good sort of just bullet point be that as the web has moved from Web 1, 2, and 3, now the web itself has moved to a more interactive stage and more code-driven and app-driven as opposed to HTML-driven. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Kelly, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Like explained before, I know that going from Web 1, where all of it was very limited, a lot of resources for students specifically. A lot of times as students we have to kind of go back all the way to the Dark Ages, like you said, and it is a little complex at times to be able to get all of that information and have to start from there. But it is something I guess that is necessary to at least understand right from the very beginning as a student standpoint. It is a little harder. Web 3, I feel like it's better to start with Web 1 and Web 2 and then go to Web 3. 3 is a little bit more automated, like you said. It is more generated. It's not that, it doesn't really give you go back to the basics. You have to go back to the basics and understand the concept of what you're doing. But I do agree that Web 3 is a great way to use for students, especially since they're trying to experience it for the first time. A lot of times students don't get the opportunity to really use those informations very well, especially if they don't have a teacher. A lot of schools don't offer that. And when you do have that, that is offered to you, then you can learn a little bit better. So I think for a student standpoint, that is something I would go to the basics if you really want to go in depth and learn with crypto. Okay.
And so, that whole pivot from Web 1 to Web 3, crypto and blockchain there, in the headlines quite a bit. Bloomberg has Bloomberg Crypto. They have a show every Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. And obviously, right, there's endless conversation about the opportunities and the potential of blockchain and crypto assets, tokenized assets, be it stable coins, NFTs, other assets. But in terms of some of the direct accounting and finance impacts, both from a practice side, running a firm,
doing work in this space as we speak, and as somebody who's a student and trying to figure out how their career is going to play out for the next 30, 40 years, hopefully. You know, how are you trying to think about this sort of tidal wave of information out there, including information coming from sources, be it various social media platforms, influencers, items like that, that aren't always accurate?
Sure. I mean, I think to me it is an overwhelming space, and that's my biggest concern of people entering it, is that it's just a lot coming at you all the time. Where do you start? One of my goals as a leader of a firm is for people coming into our firm is, how do I make this accessible to everybody, okay? And for people in the accounting world, what I would say to you is, just remember, at the end of the day, it all comes down to debits and credits, okay? So what the underlying technology is of how things get from place to place. Is it a debit? Is it a credit? Is it an asset, a liability, or an equity transaction, okay? And if you start with that, where you're more comfortable because you're more used to fiat transactions, cash transactions, a bank feed in QuickBooks, so to speak, you know, you can just ground yourself in that, feel confident, and then you can take it one step at a time. I've got my basic accounting all figured out. Now let me layer on some crypto transactions. Let's not go nuts to complicated DeFi transactions, but let's just start with a simple receipt of crypto. How do I book that? What do I look for? How do I know what it's all about? Or payment of crypto. Who did I send it to? What was I paying? What was the reason for me sending it out? Is the amount correct? And I think if you take it piece by piece, and that's what we do with our team, because I think for the clients that we work with, probably 80% of the work we do is traditional fiat accounting, payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable. It's stuff we already know, stuff that's not foreign to us. So if you can ground your feet in that and feel like, okay, I've got that, now let me figure out that next piece.
And honestly, you know, that approach and that take, I think, is really, really smart, right? To always focus on the business fundamentals and the underlying transactions, right? Because ultimately, be it smart contracts, be it DeFi, DAOs, it all comes back to trying to understand the actual business transactions and the economic impact of that. And I think we have a third panelist who just walked in now. Okay. I believe so, correct? All right, Miguel, thank you for joining us. No problem. All right, so just a quick timeout to let our third panelist introduce himself, his company, and then how we got into tokenized assets and payments and all of that good stuff. Miguel?
Hello, everyone.
Turn your mic on, Miguel. Right there, hit the button. There we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miguel Sanchez. I'm the co-founder of a crypto startup called Stack. The way I got into all of this is I started out as a tech person and coding websites, apps, games, and I really didn't understand the finance side of anything, funding and anything like that. I just worked and made money, right? And then when crypto started to become more and more prevalent, and I started to try to understand finance side of things, that's when the unlock really came, right? Trying to understand the finance side of how, the wealthiest people in the world make their money, right? They don't do it by coding websites, games, and apps. So I started to really study what they do, and what I realized is crypto allows anybody, anywhere in the world, the opportunity to do the same thing the rich people in the world get to do. So we do decentralized finance. So I decided to create an app that automates the idea of buy, borrow, die. So if you are a wealthy person, you buy assets that grow in value, and you borrow off of them to live tax-free. So now you do that with decentralized finance, with $1, you borrow 50 cents. So imagine taking your paycheck and buy, borrow, die, invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum every month, and becoming financially free sooner. So that's the type of project that I'm working on now, and it took a while of losing money, which I call tuition, to understand all of this, right? Like you gotta spend and be in those platforms. I got liquidated a bunch of times, understanding how to borrow. But I do think it's very important to understand, even from a technological side, but as a person that wants to retire one day, right? Like, I do think most people who have jobs right now don't really have a solid retirement plan or even understand it at all. And while I was building this, my dad was happening to retire. So I started to go to the meetings with him. And he had no clue about anything in his retirement. And he found out after how screwed he may be if he outlives his retirement, right? And that's a really sucky place to be at that point in your life. And I even met, along with my travels, even people that were rich at one point. They were told to buy real estate, and when they retired, they couldn't borrow off the real estate to live, so now they have to sell their real estate at the time when they need money. So all these things I looked at and I said, there's an opportunity to like educate people on crypto and the opportunities. It's tough, it's not easy, especially, you know, it has a bad rap right now with everything happening in the scam world. But I do think if you look at the underlying technology more than current price, you will start to see the opportunities. So that's how I got into it. I hope that was not too long.
No, absolutely not. And so to hop back into sort of the thought process of the panel, Kelly, how is Web3 and sort of the rise of all of these different things, right? Be tokenized payments, DAOs, NFTs, which I'm going to come back to, don't worry. How is all of that changing how business majors, students and folks doing internships, how is that changing how they think about jobs in accounting, finance, markets, and all the rest?
So thank you so much. I do think a lot of times when we speak on those informations, like you mentioned before, also there are a lot of influencers. There's a lot of people speaking on, you know, crypto, and there's a lot of, you know, information on how a lot of people are making money and being able to change their lives. But there also is a fundamental fear, like you mentioned, scams and stuff. Mm-hmm. So people don't really understand the concept of NFT, and understanding those things can be complex in a way if you are getting so much misinformation in so many various ways. You learn things from a specific source, and then you learn things from a different source, and it can be all complex and very hard for a student specifically to kind of learn it. But for the students that are, like, you know, in accounting, they do see that side of going into the development of like the technology and going back to, you know, the roots of how great this can change, how well that it is for the future for people, especially companies who are looking forward to, you know, using that resource. Yeah. I would also say, you know, a lot of people are kind of learning a little bit more down the baseline of how this can be a new way, a new age for, you know, figuring out how to do your own accounting checks and credits, you know, figuring out to basically have that space for yourself and like as an asset.
Excellent points there, Kelly. And I'm going to let our fourth panelist introduce himself right now. And it's Daniel, who's from the Knowledge House, which I have to admit sounds like a pretty interesting project. So I'm personally interested in hearing more on that too. So Daniel?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I'm so blessed to be here as a Lehman alum, as a Bronxite. I'm super excited for what's happening here at Lehman College, the School of Business. And I'm so blessed to be on this panel. Shout out to Lawrence, my former boss. Thank you for bringing me here. Amazing work here at Lehman College. So I'm the Director of Partnerships at the Knowledge House. I like to say it's the house that love built, because in 2014, when Geraldine built the Knowledge House, there was a dearth of opportunities for folks wanting to get into the tech industry. And she started first in schools to avail young people to opportunities in technology, and quickly saw that the opportunity to the other side had something to be desired. So we started doing workforce development programs, and in 2019 into 2020, in that great event that we all know that occurred in 2020, and some was still ongoing, we pivoted to ensuring that our young people, so those folks that are in high school, as well as folks that are 18 and over, making less than 50K, can develop skills in web development, data science, cybersecurity, and a user experience. So these are all field that are highly transferable have extreme relevance also to our conversation today in cryptocurrency digital assets.
Awesome, Daniel, thank you. And so I want to ask each of you to give us all maybe a 2 to 3 minute summary of an average day and a bad day. Has to be balanced out. All right, Mel, let me start with you.
I'll start with the bad day because those happen a lot. You know, in crypto, when we're taking on a new client, you're trying to understand a lot of things about them, what business they're in, how they make their money, their model, what their process is. You want to try to blend in, you want to try to help them, because as accountants, we feel that we have this really fantastic opportunity to help entrepreneurs be successful. And in that, giving them accurate, timely financial information can really help inform them as they make decisions. So one of the things we ask people is, okay, so it's much akin to you're taking on a new client. You say, okay, can you let us know all your bank accounts, because this way we can, you know, make sure we're set up, they're all connected to QuickBooks and so on. So the equivalent to that in crypto is, can you tell us about all your wallets, okay, your crypto wallets where you're transacting in and out? And I can't tell you, I don't think there's one client that's given us the complete list of wallets. So you think of this as you were doing the accounting for clients, and you finish the first month, you feel really good, you present their financial statements, and they're like, yeah, but where's the money in my Bank of America account? Well, you didn't give me that account, so now you're back to the drawing board. So you keep really unearthing wallet after wallet after wallet. So I think it's kind of frustrating, and our team has a t-shirt. We both know you have more wallets that we like to wear when we introduce ourselves to new clients. So that's a bad day. It's really, but it's the basic fundamentals of communication, really asking the right questions of clients, where you may say, give me, you know, all your wallets, but oh, they didn't think that something on an exchange was what you were looking for. So you have to try to make it as broad and as detailed as possible to get all the information you need.
Yes. As somebody who's a recovering CPA and auditor, having all of the information is always critical. Thank you, Mark.
What is the digital wallet?
The digital wallet is the software that you transact your cryptocurrency in. So it's just a software program that records any purchases of cryptocurrency, digital assets, as well as any distributions of digital assets. So it's just a website that you would look at that would show ins and outs of transactions that you have made. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Is this really a plan for the end of the physical dollar, which is kind of what you're all about?
I think that's Sean's conference next year.
Yes, absolutely. What I would say there to keep a concise answer, to have our panelists have time to answer the question, I would say that ultimately every major currency in the world, dollar, euro, yuan, is already underway there, is going to have some aspects of blockchain and of tokenization in them. But it's also important to keep in mind that about 80% of all dollar transactions are already virtual. So it isn't really that big of a stretch to add some extra layers onto it. Excellent question, thank you.
As a student, I don't have to manage a firm, I don't really have to work with, corporations in that side, but for me, it's more the information. That the critical part of the information is being able to find those opportunities where other students can learn. So like I said, I work with Alpha for Lehman College, so I work a lot with students, and certain students are computer science majors as well. It's not only catered to business, so we do really try to, I guess, find those opportunities, make those connections, getting those companies to come in to speak on those workshops. Those are the important key roles for me. My bad days are when we can't make those things happen, where we have to kind of work around, going through LinkedIn just to look at, see workshops like these, where we learn, we discuss, we kind of try to give that information to those students. So I would say those are my bad days. For me personally, when I'm trying to learn as well, my worst days are when I feel like I have so much information, but still at the same time, I have nothing at all. Finding that pinpoint, it's like sometimes like a needle in a haystack, I would say sometimes. And I would say those are my worst days, but my best days are when I'm able to understand, when I'm able to get that clarity and find that needle. That needle helps me understand other things. It helps me unwind and understand concepts that I didn't understand before. Because I think blockchain and crypto is so extensive. It's ever evolving. It will evolve more in the future as well. We're going to have new information, breakthrough information as well. So those are things I think I like learning about per se, and I think those are my best days when I'm able to understand concepts better and then show that concepts to my fellow students.
Interestingly enough, this week I had a back-to-back bad and good day, right? So in my space, I'm teaching people how to use all this crazy new stuff, right? So one day I had a person who was about to deposit $108,000 into my app, borrow $80,000, but they were bringing it from another blockchain. So as she was saying, each blockchain, you can think about it as like a bank, right? Each different bank, and you can have multiple bank accounts on every bank. Certain banks don't play nice with each other yet, and navigating that, as you were saying, it changes a lot. So I hadn't looked at the bank, that blockchain in a while, so I couldn't help this person move $100,000 that they wanted to put in my app. And I needed to go research. And then at the end of the night, there was a person, because at that same time, the price of Bitcoin started to pump. And there had been an early user of my app that had been paying their bills every month using my app by depositing their money, borrowing off of it. So they made over $10,000. And they were pressing the button to close out their account, and user error stopped them from being able to take out their $10,000. So they're texting me at 12 o'clock at night, hey, I lost my money, but it's really user error, because with the blockchain, the money's always in their possession, right? I don't have it. It's just a smart contract running on top of their digital wallet. So I told them, look, I can prove that the money's in your wallet through the blockchain. I send you a link. They saw it, they calmed down, and then the next day, I showed them they had to press one more button. They just didn't know how to take the 10,000. After they got the 10,000, they were raving about how awesome my app is, because they're like, I can't believe I made $10,000 paying my bills. And that's the up and down. It's a lot based on price too, right? Like as a person that's dealing with people and emotions, on days when the prices are up, everybody's happy, and when days the prices are down, they're not as happy. But I think most of the problem in the crypto space is the user experience still sucks, and that's where like the technologists have to kind of start to fix that. But it feels a lot like early internet when we were dealing with the same issues. But now that money's involved, like literally connected, interconnected, it becomes a lot tougher, because there's all kind of government rules and all this that we have to take into account. But the way I see it is, right now, everybody's very connected to the pricing swings, and we all have to start just really paying more attention to just the underlying technology and think about the long-term gains of that system.
How are you dealing with educating your customer base regarding this concept of different blockchains? Right? What you got, all the stable coins or whatever, that exist with multiple blockchains, they just see, oh, it's all USDT, but they how are you
Literally, that's exactly what was happening. So this client had $100,000 on the Avalanche blockchain, which is USDCE, right, which is .e. And my app takes that, but they sent money from Coinbase as well, which drops USDC without the E into, so it was a whole thing where we have to swap, and they got to pay fees and all these different things. But it's an education even sometimes for myself. Like I never saw that situation where two different types of the same coin came into the wallet, and Aave, which is the platform we built on top of, which is a decentralized open source bank pretty much, didn't realize which one it wanted to take because one had 100,000 and one had 8. So it took the 100,000, didn't take the 8. So I had to learn on the fly with the client. But part of the understanding is finding little ways to connect old information to new information. Like I told him, look, you had a bank account at a certain bank that doesn't play nice with this new other bank, which was Polygon. We built ours on Polygon because the gas fees are cheaper. It's a case-by-case basis because each person knows different amounts of information, right? So this person, I give free classes online. So this person had been part of my class, so she was much more forgiving than another person I dealt with that was very new to it. And whenever they don't see something, they just get paranoid because, you put $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 and you can't see it anymore, or it takes some time moving from Bridge, right? It's like, did I just lose that money? And I'm like, no, here, I can show you on the blockchain, it's on its way, but it's just taking some time. At one point, it took 4 hours for their money to show up. So of course they're pretty scared, but I had to show them, look, this is why the blockchain is so awesome. You don't have to worry, like the trust is out of here. Here's the link that shows that your transaction went to where it needs to go. It's just a matter of time. And if we had to wait till the banks opened and go to a bank to do this, it would take a lot more than 4 hours. It's okay, So I do think the education is on an individual basis. And I think AI is going to really help with that because I do think each person has their own path to understanding. I'm trying to create a general path, but you may still not understand Bitcoin and Ethereum difference, right? So you may need to dive deeper into that, and you can take that path if you need. Somebody else had a question, I thought. Was it for me? I don't think it does, but I think it will. I use it on a day-to-day basis. There are times where I do get caught in I know this is the government slowing things down. At one point I was bringing in $30,000 to borrow $25,000. And when I was doing that, Coinbase stopped the transaction. And I'm like, why? I'm sending it to my ledger. What's going on? So I had to get on the phone with Coinbase. And Coinbase said, look, this is out of our hands. We're being told we need to ask you these questions. So I'm like, all right, this is where the government is treating Coinbase like a bank, and they want to know what's going on because I'm doing all kind of crazy stuff, right? So I don't see a way where this is how I really see it. The government just hasn't figured out how to tax it yet. When you think about weed, gambling, those things are cool now, right? But they weren't for a while. Alcohol. Until the government understands how they get their cut, they're not going to be happy about this, right? And they're going to figure out how that works. And it's very easy once the technology is figured out because it's the blockchain. You can see every transaction I ever made. You're going to know how much taxes I owe. But right now, they don't have any idea what's going on. So they're like, slow this down so we can figure it out in 10 years. So I do think for it to be massive scale and our grandmothers are using it, yes. But right now you can use it, you're just gonna have to deal with some fun times.
Well, I just wanna put this disclaimer out there. I am probably the least knowledgeable person in this room about cryptocurrency. And you might be wondering, why am I on this panel? It's because I am as passionate about career development as Marie Kondo is about rearranging closets. Right? So for the students in the room, I'm really blessed to be in your company, and I'm really glad that you're in this room. Showing up is half the battle, and for the next 2.5 minutes that I've been allotted, my theme is curiosity. That's the message I want to leave you with. Curiosity is a gift. One of the reasons I wanted to be here was to hear from folks talking about crypto. I don't think about it every day in my day-to-day, but I wish I had more conversations with folks like these esteemed panelists to challenge my thinking so that I don't get left out. So by showing up, you've availed yourself the opportunity to not be left out. In my day-to-day as the Director of Partnerships at the Knowledge House, I live and breathe curiosity. I live and breathe relationships. I live and breathe love, which you probably didn't think you would hear about in this conversation as well. Everything I do comes from a place of love. I love the Bronx. I'm actually a Jamaican-born Nigerian American, and I say that just in case there's any intersectionality with folks in the room, any Caribbean folks in the room, Dominicans, where you at? Any Dominicans in the room?
Oh, what?
100%, you should be silent. We're at Lehman College, all right. I say that to say that we're all connected and we're all related in various different ways. And that's what I bring to my work as Director of Partnerships. My main priority is to find companies to hire our fellows. And you ask, what does a good day look like? What does a bad day look like? There's tons of ups and downs. One is just a really bad time in the economy for someone that expects a job to materialize out of thin air. There are things that we train our young people in web development, data science, cybersecurity, user experience, all highly relevant skills. Also in the crypto space, as my brother Miguel mentioned, user experience, being able to design the experience, understand user behaviors and design for that. Data science, being able to study transactions and predict user behavior. Being able to build some of the platforms that are leveraging blockchain on the web development front is also cybersecurity. Being able to secure the blockchain. So all of our four tracks are highly relevant to the future of work. And I am working every day to make sure that our fellows, that our partner companies understand the value that is coming from folks like yourselves in the Bronx and beyond. We're now in ATL, Atlanta, LA, and Newark, New Jersey, but we are from the Bronx. So a good day is when a company is ready to hire. A bad day is, these are sometimes the same day, when a company is saying we're in a hiring freeze. So just know that all these things are cyclical. So leading with love, not fear. I know that things will get better, and the conversations I'm having now, the relationships that I'm building now, are ultimately going to bear fruit for our fellows.
Yeah, I think that was well said. And to wrap up our panel part of this conversation, and then to give the audience a few minutes for some Q&A, if there was one topic that you wish you knew more about as it connects to data science, Web3, crypto assets, what is that? And try to keep the answers 30 to 45 seconds. One topic that you wish you knew more about. No? There's something.
Yeah, it's attracting talent to the space. It's attracting people who are accountants who into the crypto accounting space because it's a fun adventure. So, and it really is driven by talent. I love, Daniel, what you said about curiosity, because one of the things I think as an accountant, as a lifelong accountant, accountants don't think of themselves as creative, but I read something where it really reframed my whole thinking about creativity, because they define creativity as the combination of curiosity and problem solving.
Yes.
And when you think about that, accountants are very creative.
Thank you so much. Yes, for me, I think that one of the things that I wish I could, as a person, could really key point is understanding blockchain not only in the more technical side, because I am a business, of course, but I really do want to think that when it comes to learning blockchain crypto, you have to kind of have some essence of understanding the technical side also. So I think that should be a little bit more prevalent for the business students as well. Some type of technology should be open to students so they can learn, because technology is the future, and with how we're going, everything's going to get intertwined somewhere or somehow.
For me, this one hurts every time I talk about it. I saw Bitcoin when it was 30 cents. I was building a website at a place, and one of the developers showed me this screen, and he's like, put money in. I'm like, what are you we gotta finish a website, shut up, right? And I always think about, I should have put $100, right? And one of the things I think about now is, you gotta put something in there enough so you start to pay attention, because you're not gonna understand this until you pay your tuition. Right, like we all have paid tuition. Right? You you pay attention to what you pay for, right? So when it comes to technologies like this, I didn't really learn it, and I started to go to blockchain events after I saw the 30-cent Bitcoin and I didn't buy it. I went to Latinos and blockchain events and all kind of things like that. People were telling me about this technology. I still didn't put in $1. Ethereum was like $7. Not until the last bull run did I say, okay, no more. I'm putting money in here and I'm gonna pay attention to it. And that changed my life, right? And I do think when I look back at my 30-cent days, I wasn't risk tolerant enough, even though I was making good money, I was a developer and everything, but I just didn't see a need to put money into something that I didn't understand, even though I could kind of tell it was the future, right? Like you buying money with code, duh, right? And it's like, how do you not think that that's gonna be, right? So I think now, which you guys are like 12 years late to the game at that point, right? Like, if you can't put in enough money to make yourself pay attention to it, at least start educating yourself on what it is, enough to make a educated decision on do you believe in it or not, right? Like, there's people who only believe in Bitcoin. There's people who only believe in Ethereum. At least they've invested enough time to have that belief. I believe they're both wrong. I think both are gonna do something, and nobody can tell what it'll be. But until you can put skin in the game and try to make sure you're able to make an educated decision, that's the thing I wish I would have known before.
So I'm really interested in learning more about how AI can empower individuals in their day-to-day and their journey to economic stability and thriving wages. So, and then you alluded, Miguel, to how it can help folks learn crypto, right? If they have that curiosity, if they have that interest. And I'll sneak in another one here. I'm also interested in how do you cultivate curiosity, because I think in all these conversations around talent, we focus so much on the skills, and the Knowledge House is unshamefully or shamelessly guilty of prioritizing skills, but we also prioritize mindset, and I think curiosity is something that we need to learn how to cultivate, as well as ensure that folks know what opportunities are out there.
All excellent points, basically trying to get talent, put money in the game, and master both that surface knowledge and that operational knowledge, right? Because ultimately, that's what it takes, right? To have the conversations, but ultimately you have to be able to show up and do the work also. And so now I do think we have time for one or two questions out of the audience prior to breaking for lunch.
Good afternoon. So my name is Zoe Spencer. My question is, while working in crypto security and being an account expert, what are some measures you take to basically reassure your client that their information is safe?
No? I agree with that. That's you.
It's a good question. I think in terms of services, and I think someone hit on it also, is the whole idea of risk management, and that's exactly what you're bringing up, is like, in accounting, there are a couple things. Internal controls that you want to really understand and make sure that not one person holds all the keys to the crypto, for example. You want to make sure, and part of your internal controls would be safeguarding your wallet, seed phrases, or if you're storing your wallets on like a ledger or something like that, like what's the physical security of that? What are the access points to that? So those are very simple, and you would do the same thing for bank accounts, that you wouldn't have a single person able to sign and drain a bank account. So you want to make sure you're setting up your crypto, access to your crypto in the same way. In terms of, that's one area. Security, I think, password management is so incredibly important, and something that I don't think people take into account seriously enough in terms of it. Don't, it's not a sticky on your laptop. It's not, your birth date, it's not your phone number, it is really, you've got to really manage your passwords.
All right, and we have time for one more question.
I have a quick answer to that.
Sure, Miguel.
What I tell people in this space is you're as secure as your knowledge, right? Basically, I tell people there's no customer service in the matrix, right? So if you don't understand the failure points of how crypto scams happen when you click the wrong link and they wipe all that stuff is based on user error mostly. So it's up to you to start, again, trying to understand. And yes, it sucks that it's like that right now, but so was the internet early on. You have to do the homework on what causes security breaches so you cannot do it. It's pretty easy once you understand that. You can buy a cold storage wallet that protects your crypto. There's many different things you can do, but what I see is most people just haven't done that homework, and then it happens and they call it all a scam.
All right, do we have, yes, we have time for one more question.
From an investing point of view, how does crypto equate to, let's say, the stock market? Are there 12 cryptos that I can invest in, or are there 50 cryptos that I can invest in? And how many are safe and secure, and how do you understand about which ones are better than others?
So the way you have to look at investing in crypto is there's tokens and there's coins, right? So again, when we take back the analogy of banks, coins are like banks. So these are blockchains where transactions are going to happen. Bitcoin is a blockchain. Ethereum is a blockchain. They're called layer 1 solutions. When you invest in those, you're investing in that bank and thinking people are going to pour money into that bank one day, so I want to be ahead of that. That's why Bitcoin is on its current rise, because everybody thinks an ETF for Bitcoin is coming. And when that happens, people who own stocks can just buy the ETF and they'll be buying Bitcoin.
I don't understand.
Okay.
Is it a stock that goes up?
So Bitcoin is the value of Bitcoin goes up and down just like a stock based on people buying and selling it. But now there's going to be a correlated stock to that price. So if you don't want to buy Bitcoin, you rather have someone else hold the Bitcoin for you. You can buy the ETF for a fee, of course. I think it's better to buy the Bitcoin, but if you're a person that has a Robinhood or whatever else, you can buy Bitcoin ETF and you're buying Bitcoin. And the price goes up and down just like a stock. It's not really based on the value of a company. Stocks are not really based on the value, it's on public perception, right? So if Tesla's making $1 million a year, the price still could be high because you think Elon Musk is going to take it to the moon, versus it's the same thing with crypto. All of this is based on public perception, really. Everything you trade is that. But
stocks
the
are
price.
based on earnings, and crypto is not based on earnings.
But that's not really.
That's my confusion with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the best way that I thought about trying to analyze the market for either coins, tokenized assets, NFTs, all the rest, is to treat most of them like a commodity, right? They are headline driven by interest rates, inflation, politics. There are some applications out there that do allow you to earn income off of allocating funds if you want to stake coins or tokens, but it's a really broad question. But I would say that how you price crypto is an excellent question that I don't think anybody really has the answer to yet. But I'm sure that our panelists are happy to talk about with you more during our break for lunch, right, Lawrence?
Yep. One thing we got is good food.
Thank you.